Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Propagandacast. Lehr. The topic of the day is the field officer. Yeah, the officer is here. Have no fear, except if you're Russian, in which case lots of it. And of course, a unit which I feel to a rather large extent is actually quite neglected. I mean, part of some rather interesting doctrine, but usually the one unit sort of overlooked, which is rather unfortunate for many reasons. Since the unit itself is quite interesting for many reasons. Overall, you get a sort of four-man squad, 3 grenadiers, the officer itself, who sort of possesses a bit more DPS than your average grenadier, and is also a bit tougher overall, due to simply, being an officer. Probably the trench jacket they're doing it. Look at my style. But of course, that's not just everything there is to him. I mean, there's more to it than just the cool coat. There's also the smoke barrage, which allows them to plop in 8 rounds there, which can be quite useful in many situations. I'll hopefully be able to show them to you with this little episode. You've also got the concentrated fire, which I really think, is the prime ability of this one. This is really one that makes the unit, since it pretty much boosts all your units around it. For example, infantry fires more accurately, vehicles fire fast. I mean, that's really, something that gives you a lot more to go with, in particular, if you then use it with the right vehicles. And you've also got this one, yeah, not really much useful, to be honest, but besides, for example, shifting targets and a howitzer, I think, but that's really it overall. But still, even then, I mean, with these two abilities, you still get a lot, and of course, there's still the officer himself. So let's sort of get to it. See the officer moving out there with his Luger in hand. Slowly but surely. Moving up to support the front line. Yeah, and again, a unit can be used for a lot of things when it comes to supporting up your front line. I mean, it can be used to support your team weapons, for example, again, boost your mortar, boost your MG, boost your sniper. Your grenadiers, though, tend to be a primary use, but also panzer grenadiers. In fact, a lot of people like to use, for example, him in conjunction with your panzer grenadiers to sort of really get more out of them. Playing here versus Gap, who's definitely putting in his best. But holding up here with the officer, trying to hunt down the scout car, but again, not really the primary purpose here. Hopefully, though, I will be able to display to you some usage of concentrated fire. Conscripts moving in, and the squad not looking too good. And there we go, concentrated fire. Conscripts all of a sudden taking a lot more damage as they're taking a lot more of the shots in. And there we go, quickly going down there. Despite being submachine gunners, all amazing up close, they're all of a sudden not doing too well there. The gunners do take a bit of a beating, but overall, none too bad. And again, overall, the officer himself can present quite the obstacle. And certainly also helps having mortar run, but there you go. And even then, he held out quite surprisingly well, considering he was facing off against 2 squads equipped with submachine guns up close. Again, he's rather durable in many regards. In that regard, he can also provide as a sort of, lead unit that can help you also absorb more infantry fire. But again, concentrated fire, if used properly, can really get you a lot more out of it. I mean, it works better, for example, with grenadiers with machine guns, for example. Then again, the grenadiers really begin tearing through the enemy. But again, keep those little things about the officer in mind. He can do you a lot of good if you know how to use him correctly. And of course, as he vets up, his bonuses become a bit better. In particular, you get veterancy 3. This one gets better, which is definitely nothing to scoff at. And again, a lot of people also tend to treat the officer rather disposable, which again is a shame, because again, with this veterancy ability again, I mean, that himself doesn't just become better, again, that one becomes better. I mean, you can get that one better. I mean, that's just pretty much gravy. That's awesome. No matter how much you like to deny otherwise. And again, that one ability pretty much makes them all worth it. Just alone. I mean, it's great that he can do all the other stuff, but again, just that one just alone. I mean, Christ, I wish the officer from Company Heroes 1 had that ability. Never mind that he also wished he worked in the command squads, which was a bit less likely to get murdered right away. There goes shock trooping in, popping up here. A bit useless in this case, but still, figure why not. Might scare them away, still, of course, one lacking of the officer besides, though, is the fact that he's rather lacking in anti-tank weaponry, of course. You do have to be a bit careful with him in that regard, as it might get a bit uncomfortable. There's very much something to keep in mind when it comes to using the officer. But let's move ahead a bit farther to sort of see a more veteran officer in action. And here we are again. The game has advanced a bit further. My officer is now veteran T2, not quite there to sort of get that one better, but still able to present a threat. We got a bit of a nasty situation. T-34 advancing. Things are falling behind here. No roll, things are not looking too good. Officer holding things up here a bit at the front and popping in smoke, basically to cover up the retreat. One way, by the way, can use it again. There we go. Smoke usage deployed. Covers up a nice bit of the space there. Lovely. Can also be used, for example, and I've seen some players do it. In fact, I'll just pause to point out some more specifically. I mean, you can also use it, for example, lay down a smoke cover before then moving, taking a point. Though, again, you can also use a mortar foot, but again, if you have the officer around, why not do so that way? Again, one example there again. It's overall not an expensive, but again, it gives you a nice buff of smoke. Again, it can also be used offensively if you so desire. But right here, you just basically cover the retreat. Also got a little target here fighting about. Personally, I prefer the assault support for an artillery field officer, but again, for those, for example, you prefer joint operations, go for it as well.
Officer reporting.
The officer is a bit expensive to reinforce, but again, overall, you do get your money's worth out of it, or your manpower's worth out of it. And also works quite nice, of course, as the other units get veterancy, of course, then the buff here, of course, also applies even further. So, I mean, overall, pretty useful unit if you can understand, if you can sort of utilize him properly and get the most out of him. Of course, I shouldn't be focusing on the target here, but I seem to be slightly forgetting about the officer a bit. My fault.
We have secured additional territory. They're coming from behind. Enemy forces
so that rather in hopefully numerous regards covers your artillery field officer on use on the battlefield. At least the basics of course, there's always sort of more advanced things you can go through if you so fancy, but still overall again pretty useful. Again, you know, if you're under attack, having buff, for example, the MG42, a pack 40%, you also benefit from it. In that regard, you know, he can be used offensively, defensively, supportive, more aggressive. I mean, even in 1 versus 1 again, if you pop concentrated fire, you can usually gain an advantage against the conscript squad reasonably well. So again, something to remember. And again, overall, the call-in only costs 240, so it's not like he will, for example, set you back an awful lot in terms of manpower, of course. He will swallow a bit of miss as well, the concentrated fire, but again, usually you'll find it well worth it, of course, if you're going for this one. And Noble Blitz, for example, might be an idea, otherwise ammunition's cash. So a few thoughts there. So, that rather covers the basics of it. The general idea behind him, the general usage of him, what you can do, again, what you really should be doing with him, again, concentrated fire, focus fire, and fire frei. Of course, the smoke barriers itself also quite valuable, so again, should not be ignored this one. Again, and otherwise, unit himself, again, if properly taken care of, is anything but bad. And again, you know, as your veteran, again, he becomes even more valuable. And again, he also works really well with the veteran units because, again, then he further, you know, boosts it again as well. You know, for example, again, a veteran 3 grenadier already rather lethal. Again, if you're saying with an MG42, then having the officer covering, again, he can certainly do a ton of damage. So those are a few things there to keep in mind while, you know, utilizing your officer. And hopefully something that might inspire you to use him more in the future in your games if you're playing as the Germans. And of course, as the Russians realizing that he needs to be taken down rather quickly because, again, you know, properly used, he can be a pain. But again, there's only ever going to be one at the time. And also another thing, if the officer himself gets killed, the abilities actually don't work. I mean, he can't do anything. So again, you know, it's one particular unit here. So again, there's some things to keep in mind there. And in that regard, there might be something there to go for as well. And of course, you know, again, the vital of keeping him alive again. Very much so important. And again, you know, hopefully this inspired you again. Might use him a bit more, might use him better even. That's great. So again, you know, hopefully you've learned something from this. Hopefully you enjoyed this as well. If you did, subscribe to your friends, share it with everybody. If you didn't, well, why not provide some feedback in the comments. This is Imperial Dane saying cheers. And remember to use your officer well.